What's up, Flexies? Welcome to Flex the Truth. I know I am alive. You can see me. I'm not a ghost. I know I've been away for a while. I know, and so is my voice, believe it or not. And last week, as much as I wanted to do a podcast, I had to save it for the weekend because the weekend was going to be very, very special and endearing to me. So I really saved my voice. I think the enemy was really trying to mess with me. So I couldn't say what I said and affect the people and move, touch, and inspire them that I did this weekend. So, haha, I won again. So far I'm undefeated against the enemy. But speaking about undefeated, I have one of the most unbelievable human beings you're ever going to meet in your life. And you know, I don't like to mince words. You know, I don't just throw out adjectives on people. You know, I'm very deliberate in my words and in the way that I speak about people. But you know, I've met this gentleman. I got to meet this extraordinary gentleman in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're now touring with Clay Clark on the Thrive Time show with General Flynn and others. And you know, I got to meet him, and when I looked in his eyes, I just saw genuineness. I saw realness. I just saw like a good dude, you know, like just a good dude. And then really didn't get to know him until really Tampa. And then actually at 1:30 in the morning, he showed up in my hotel room, him and his assistant, Nick. So that was pretty cool. And, you know, we handled the situation, you know, and with God's help, you know, we rectified it. But we've really bonded. And, you know, in Tampa, and now we were just talking about us doing, you know, events together. You might have heard of him as the Marine Megaphone or the Megaphone Marine. He's from California. Man, what a story he has. So, you know, I don't want to steal his thunder. I want to get him up. Are you there, Dr. Cordie?
Yes, sir, I am.
What's up,
Absolutely.
brother?
Oh, what's up, man? I just want to say to your viewers out there, you guys already know this gentleman's heart because he is a sweetheart of a human being. And, you know, the people I love hanging out with are guys that are masculine alphas that want to take territory, but they're not afraid to show their heart and their vulnerability and communicate their love that they have for humanity. And that is 100% you, Chris. And I'm just honored by the intro and honored to be on the show.
Oh, thanks, brother. I mean, I'm starting to talk to him on a regular basis as much as I can because he's like me. He's either flying somewhere or walking into an event or coming out of an event. But you know what people don't really realize about this man is he's a true family man. We just had a conversation. He just talked about, you know, bringing his wife with him because she's like, hey, do I even have a husband anymore? Because, you know, when you're fighting for your country and you're fighting for family and freedom and faith, right? What happens is there are a lot of sacrifices, right? And there tends to be a lot of collateral damage. And I've just watched this man. I got to meet his lovely wife, and you know, via you know, it was what was FaceTime, I think, or a duo in Tampa. But you could see the love that resonated from you, Dr. Cordie. So tell everybody, tell your story. How did you come about? And we'll start from there.
Yeah, well, like you, had a lot of I've had a lot of adversity in my life. And, you know, I know you've shared your testimony and it's an amazing one. And, you know, while I can't relate to the entire book, you know, I feel like that's where you and I are kind of kindred spirits. I feel like I share one of those chapters in the book of life and hard knocks and dealing with adversity and just trying to make it right. I certainly had that growing up, grew up with a, you know, really, really abusive dad. And my grandfather that I frequently talk about from stage was kind of that outlet for me. But, you know, former Marine, worked in the National Football League for a period of years, having not in the league specifically, but we had tons of athletes that would fly in and work with me on a technique that we did and created called functional resistance stretching. And that was years of just trying to search. You know, after the Marine Corps, I kind of couldn't find my way. Got out of the Marine Corps in 2002, went straight in right out of high school, kind of dabbled around, trying to find my way, did everything from bartending to plugging songs in Nashville. And then that would kind of lead me into this technique and, getting 3 certifications in Pilates. And then I would go on to create a technique called functional resistance stretching, partner with a chiropractor, and he and I were catering to NFL athletes. And that kind of spawned me becoming a chiropractor. And I meet some smoking hot babe named Tanya, and she and I have 2 kids together. She gets this wild idea to move to California. We kind of open up a practice, move to California, and have our first child all within the period of probably 2 years.
Wow.
Started practice, everything. And, we're trucking down the road and things are working great. And 7 years, we're killing it. We like our life and everything's awesome. But probably about, I guess it was February or January of last year, I guess you could say, or months before the COVID scam started, I was just praying for a legacy. And I just really felt like God had this bigger calling for me. And lo and behold, COVID comes down, and 2 weeks to slow the spread and all that nonsense that Dr. Fauci, also known as Master Splinter, was saying. And, she comes in one day and she's like, "Hey, honey, we need to start protesting." And I'm like, "Protesting? What are you talking about? I'm a former Marine. I don't protest against the government." And we started protesting. I got probably two protests under my belt, found myself always leading the crowd and speaking through a megaphone. And so on this particular day, it was May 1st, probably about, 18 months ago now, something like that. So we're maybe three months into the lockdown. It's really, really heavy in California. We didn't know if we were going to lose our business, all that stuff, like a lot of Americans. And I end up seeing women and children thrown to the ground, handcuffed, batoned. Adolf Newsom, as I affectionately call him, had pulled the permits on our real peaceful protests the night before. And there were probably 2,000 to 3,000 there before the rallies were ever a thing. This was maybe the second or third rally. And it happened to be a group I was working with at the time that was running the rally. And we ended up with going from a force of 25 cops in fatigues to cops in full riot gear, pushing us back, pushing all, 2,500 people back, and being very physical. And I just got tired of kind of witnessing communist China. So although I'm a lover of firemen and firefighters and police officers and every armed force out there, or anybody that serves, really, I got on a embankment and spoke to the uniformed officers in riot gear about the oath that they took and the honor, courage, and commitment I learned in the Marine Corps. And they really stood back and stood down, and 17 million people liked it. And that was the launch of this organization behind me called 1776 Forever Free.
And when you talk about that resistance stretching, so let me paint the visual for you guys. So a lot of people, a lot of flexies ask me, Dr. Cordie, and you're my witness. So Chris, when you're on the road, do you work out? Right? So here it's, I think, Cordie after 6 in the morning. I just spent the night before with Dr. Cordie and his buddy, and we were hanging out, and a couple hours. I just need a couple hours sleep. Woke up, went to the gym. Here I am lifting, ripping iron, like I say. And here he comes in at 6:30, and he's doing this Pilates, if you would, or the resistance, full stretching. And I turn and I look at him because he's to my right, and we have a mirror in front of us, right? And I look at him and I'm like, oh, if I could bend like that, I would be a porn star. And he just totally loses it. I just remember just in awe of this man. I didn't even know a human being could bend like that. And so I got to witness him actually do what he speaks about. And that's what I love about you, Dr. Cordie, is you have so much integrity. You say what you mean and you mean what you say. So when you talk about that resistance stretching, I was there. I witnessed it. I watched you and all. At 6:30 in the morning doing that. And you fired me up so much that in between my sets, I don't know what I was doing, but I started dancing and jumping on the ground. I was like, I'm not letting him like make me look dumb just lifting, some iron here, But I love that about you. And the other thing I love is that number one, you're not a former Marine, right? So once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. And I appreciate you and your sacrifices and your service to our country. And I have to say that because up until 3 years ago, I never respected military and veterans. It really never bothered me and never hit me and never hit me in my heart. And now it does. I mean, it wells me up in tears when I do my speeches. I walk up to veterans, I hug them, and I tell them how much they mean to me because I lost sight of that. And now we're truly fighting for our freedom, right? And so now I know that they sacrificed a lot, and we don't even have our freedom. So you go from that, right? So you go from getting 17 million views, then you're like, okay, we're gonna start a movement, right? 1776 forever, guys. If you haven't seen his shirts, I can't believe I don't have that shirt on. I'm gonna have to run up and grab it and put it on. I know I was wearing it when I was away.
We'll just get you more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I love wearing them because, it's so powerful when people see it. And it's such a great thing to talk about. So then you go from that to say, what? We're going to start a movement. What happens with step two?
Yeah. So my best friend, probably about 3 days, I'm just, Chris, I can say that it may not look like it, but I come from a history of abuse. So I'm like a guy that has a low self-esteem, just being candid with everybody, right? I've just done a lot of work on it. And so there's all these people like emailing and texting in, and they're saying how great I am and you're a voice and you're a leader. And I just, as a Marine, you kind of lead, but you don't think that you're a leader, right? Like, and I'm kind of neurotic because I'm a perfectionist. So there were times when I in childhood where I wouldn't even try something if I couldn't be the best at it.
That was me.
One of the things, right?
Yep.
And so I'm trying to instill in my boys, like, give me your best. Whatever your best is today, I'll take it. If your best is somebody else's 80%, but that's your 120, I want your best. And I think the last 15 months have been another level of me saying, well, what's my best? And really the personal growth work that I've done through Jesus and accepting Jesus into my life has been part of that journey. Right. But so I just was taking all the feedback and like not even seeing myself as this whatever. Right. Because you're a really humble guy too. So I know you get this, because when people say stuff about you, you're just like, well, I can't even see that, but I'm honored that you see that. Right. And so we just got all these letters and messages and all this stuff. There was an outpouring. So I called my best friend, Chris Lippy, who's probably about 15 years older than me. He's between 52 and 55, I think 53, actually. We've been friends for 5 years. He's a godfather to my second son. And I called him and I said, Chris, I want you to be a part of this. Really successful guy, sold out to Starbucks, and just a humble, beautiful dude with a big heart. And I said, I want you to be a part of this. And he's like, well, what is it? What are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I just feel like God's given me a platform to help and influence people positively. And I said, I feel like there's a void in people understanding where we're at and what's at stake. And this was early on in the movement. And so I said, I want to teach people the Constitution. I want to be able to mobilize people to fight back against the tyranny. And so I said, how about we create an organization called 1776. I know it's supposed to have that in it, Chris, but what about forever? And we played with some names and all that. And I said, forever free. And he's like, well, I don't know. And he said, think about it for 5 seconds. I said, I don't need to. The Holy Spirit just gave that to me. Yeah. It's 1776 forever free. He's like, think about it for 5. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be counting the minutes. I'm going to call you back in 5 minutes. 5 minutes on the dot. I call him back and I'm like, it's still 1776 forever free. And we come out with this initial shirt design that has the Betsy Ross flag on it. And people like it, and it took off, but you can imagine it was a little bit, it's like with Jesus, you always try to show the love, because no matter where somebody's at, no matter what drug they're doing, whether they're committing adultery, whether they're a porn addiction, doesn't matter, whether they're transgender, use gender, it doesn't matter. Those are all conversations to divide us. The underlying conversation that unites us is the book of Matthew, and it's about love. And so we really saw that, and we got some feedback from other people like, hey, you know, you may not be trying to do this, but you're creating division. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I totally get that. I'm going to take that word. I'm going to take that feedback. And so Chris creates this shirt, and I'm going to grab one because I got it right to the right of me right here. He creates this shirt right there. And that shirt, I saw it with a back like this. And I'm like, I don't know, Chris. I mean, I was a skeptic. So he was kind of like, if we're honest about it, he was a skeptic about the name. And then I'm a skeptic about this shirt.
Yeah, the design.
But this shirt is all over the country, and people just love it because it's amazing how those simple messages really just get people right now. They get where they're at. And so we ended up doing rallies, probably 40 of them up and down California. We took it national, everything from recalling Newsom, which I was one of the lead spokespersons for their weekly town hall that they did. And they called me right when they started the campaign. We did rallies with them. We did rallies on election integrity, getting Trump reelected, all sorts of stuff. And we kind of, after about 8 months of doing rallies as a community organization, we got our 501c3 nonprofit status. And that's really when we started to say, okay, we like what we did to protect the Constitution, but we want to make sure that we're doing something that provides a platform where, whether you're red or blue politically, we say, if you believe that we should all be able to raise our kids in unity and love with choice the way we want, right? Under moral, ethical values, even though we're Jesus-centered values, moral, ethical values, whatever that looks like for you, then we want 1776 Forever Free to be that home. And then it just really took off. We've been doing constitutional classes, Zooming people in from all over the country. And now we're launching a platform to get people back in office.
Yeah. And we're going to get to that in a moment. And what I love is, you know, when I'm sitting there in Tampa, and, you know, I had a booth, and although my booth, I blessed, you know, Rick blessed to teach because my shirts weren't done in enough time. But, you know, to watch after you spoke, you know, and you saw me come by and give you a hug because, you know, I'm not motivated by you because I believe that if you can't motivate yourself, then you got problems, right? But I'm so inspired by you. You know, I'm inspired by your story. Our stories are very parallel, which is pretty crazy. You'll hear mine when I come on your show. But what I love is that when you talk to the people, Dr. Cordie, you engage them. You're not shouting at them. You're not talking at them. You're not programming them. You are engaging them, and you're letting them use their own critical thinking. And it shows because after you're done, there's lines. I mean, people, there are lines lining up to buy shirts, to sign autographs, to get a picture with this man. And I've seen him be more humble than he was even in Tulsa. If that could be, you know, if that could actually be something, right? But just the humbleness, and, you know, you got to understand something. You know, Dr. Cordie and I, you know, traveling all over, seeing all these people, it's so crazy, isn't it, Dr. Cordie? Like when you've got people coming up and go, can you please sign this, right? Or can I just get a picture with you? You know, or you walk in a store and somebody recognizes you. I mean, when I walked into Sheetz in Penn State, and people like, baby Trump, I'm like, what? Like, this is so bizarre. But what we have to understand is that they really revere us because what we stand for. It's not us personally, because they really don't know us personally. Most of them, would you agree? They're not around us 24/7, right? They don't see the screw ups we have, right? And the mistakes and the bad choices we make, right? But what we stand for is what they love. And that's what they want to be a part of. the one thing that I have to say about you, Dr. Cordie, is everybody around you is humble, is beautiful, is sweet, good people. Rachel, I'm going to give some shout outs. Rachel and Tanya Ann, I think she just got engaged, right? I believe. Nick, I call him Tiny, right? You know, just some of your people, some of your workers that I've seen from day one. I remember when I was in Tulsa and taking pictures with your girls, even before I knew you know, and then see their smiling faces again. I saw them in Dallas, I told you, for my event. And they actually, I told them to come on over. They were doing it on Saturday. I said, do my event on Sunday. And they set up shop for my event on Sunday. So even the people that you're around, Dr. Cordie, that I've seen, are just great people. And that just says a lot about you.
Well, I'm honored, buddy. And you know, we definitely have a bromance going on because you know, I adore you, man. You just you know, there's not many people that, and I actually, my eyes were getting watery because I was so honored by what you just said. And I mean that there aren't many people like, and I really want your viewers to get this, and they know this because this is why they follow you, is there aren't many guys that can really, really communicate and be vulnerable that are alpha dogs that fight, you know. And honestly, just, you know, Chris and I in our travels, it's like, we've seen so many people have these egos. It's fascinating. You meet the bigger personalities and the people with the bigger following, 9 times out of 10, they have no ego and they're just totally, completely humble. But occasionally in the world of political influence and you know, business, if you want to call it that, because there's always a business side eventually to some of this, a little bit, because it obviously takes money to fund it. You get these individuals that just, I mean, they really have their head up their keister and they need a crowbar to get it out of there, right?
Yes.
But within that, when you meet a Chris, when you meet a baby Trump, a guy that is just an authentic sweetheart that knows Jesus and has had things happen in his life. And I heard your story. I don't know if I told you this, but I heard your story when we were in Tulsa at breakfast, when you shared it in front of Clay. And just that bit of what I heard, I was like, I got to be friends with this guy, because there was so much just love in what you said. And I'm like, this guy's set apart. He's set apart and he's different. And sometimes when you go to big events and there's all these influencers and personalities, people will have this air of ego about them. And, you know, I would say that the same compliment that you just gave me, I would say right back at you, man. Oh. I mean, that's why you have this infectious, beautiful personality. We had a problem in Tampa, and Chris was one of the first people to like get in there and help out and just connect. And he's always inviting me to stuff and always like holding this space to include everyone and anyone. He wants everybody to feel special. So I'm just going to throw it right back at you, brother.
Yeah. And that's how it should be. You know what I mean? Like the Ann Vandersol, the Mike Adams, the Lori Gregors, Annie Wakefield, you know, resistance chicks. Oh my gosh, you can go on and on and on, you know, with the people, the Pastor Locks, you know what I mean? The Sherwoods, Dr. Sherwood, you know what I mean? People like that, Rick Bless, the teacher. There's so many of us that hold each other, Amanda Grace. We all raise one another up because there's enough audience for all of us. Yeah. And if we get together, that's how we unify. That's how we get our country, is that we unify together, raise one another up. You know, I had a podcaster say to me 2 weeks ago, Chris, you're torn with la, la, la. We all know who I'm torn with. And how do you raise this person up? You have your own podcast. You have 8,000 followers. You're doing great by yourself. Why are you bringing somebody else up on stage and introducing them? Here's one. Be a servant. Yeah. Be a servant, because, you know, there was a guy in Gettysburg, you know, I could tell he was a little slow and he was rolling the garbage around. He was dirty. And here I was, you know, me dressed to the nines. And I reached out and I grabbed him and I hugged him. And I said, I love you, man. Thank you for everything you've done. He's like, can I get a picture with you? And I was like, absolutely. And what happened is people looked at me because 50% judgment happened in Gettysburg. They judge me. I have pastors that judge me. That's why I didn't talk in Tampa, because, Ronnie Brown judged me. But they look at me and they go, okay, this is what he looks like, but they don't know what's going to come out or mouth. Same thing with you. You look at you and like, man, he's a Marine. This dude's a tough dude. This guy's built. You guys, he's sitting down, but this dude's rock. This dude's a brick wall, man. They ain't an ounce of fat on him. He makes me look fat standing next to him.
No,
you know whatever. That's why I was going down digging. I was like,
I gotta wear baby Gap shirts. I gotta wear small and extra small to look big. You just naturally are ripping out of yours. So,
but that's what we need to do. And that's why I love being around, you, Dr. Cordie, and other people. So the chapter starts, right? So now you have the megaphone, now you're protesting, now you have a business. So, when you have a business, now you're taking it to a whole nother level, right? Because now you're not just responsible for you, you're responsible for other people, right? And you have a 501c, you're speaking. But what happened in the last week or two?
Well, we've been teaching people how to run for office, and we've been talking about it. And, I was praying about it, and the Holy Spirit, a couple of people put this in my ear, and I was looking at it, thinking about it. And then I talked to a PR guy a month ago, and he was offering me some opportunities. And somewhere in this space, I got an idea, and I mentioned that idea to him, and he just got, I felt like he was going to come through the phone and fly to California, and he lives in Florida. So he just got really excited, and he saw the vision of the storyline that I gave him the same as I did. He's like, wow, dude, that's like an amazing story. Because what I said to him is, I said, what would you think about a doctor that has done rallies nationally and all up and down California and nationally? He's been on stage with Brandon Strzok. He's been on stage with all these people. And he's got this freedom movement where they teach constitutional classes and they get people to run for office. And they've been a leading force in getting Newsom out. And this is post-COVID, where people have been Zoom schooling their kids, and they're sick and tired and fed up. They want Adolf Newsom out of there. And California knows us. And that t-shirt I showed you guys a little while ago, it's not only all over California, it's all over the nation. What would you think about that guy launching an exploratory committee for the United States Senate to take on Alex Padilla, who was appointed by Adolf Newsom to replace the fraudulent vice president, Kamala Harris? And he just got all excited. So we announced our exploratory committee about 2 weeks ago now in Tampa Bay, Florida, in front of 11,000 people. And the crowd was excited when I was speaking, but my Tiny, as you call him, my 6'8", 400-pound, executive director, he said the crowd just exploded when we announced that. And so that's what we're putting together right now. We've got the leading pollster, one of the leading pollsters that was for Trump, one of the leading fundraisers, and we've had multiple people at very high levels, because I don't want to blow up their name because they may not be ready for me to say that. Endorse us and tell us that if we get to a certain point, that we can probably even get the man to endorse us as well. So God's putting together some amazing stuff for sure.
Yeah. And it's crazy. You're only the second politician or second person I've had on, because I'm against politicians. We've talked about this thing, but you're not a politician. You're a people-tician. You're for the people, about the people, we the people. And that's what I've been saying to people. This is people like you are the ones that need to be in office.
I'm going to use that, by the way, people-tician. I'm going to steal that, but yes. I'm going to give you credit.
Oh, I know you will, bro. But that's what you are. And because here's what I'm going to ask you. What have you been doing the last 6 to 8 months? Your resume is longer than probably a 5-year-old's Christmas list for the next 10 years. You've been touring. I got goosebumps. You've been touring the country. You've been fighting the protests. You've been putting your own money out. You've been sacrificing your family. and you're not even in office.
Yeah.
That's what we need, state by state by state. Pittsburgh, this is why I'm fed up with you. Pennsylvania, this is why I'm fed up with you. And you should be called the Pittsburgh Putty Cats, because you keep taking the same losing politicians that aren't doing anything, that are not for the people, that are for themselves, and you keep recirculating them instead of looking for people like Dr. Cordie.
And here's the thing, Chris, you know, a lot of people say, well, you have no political experience. Well, we've all made mistakes, but I'll just say this: political experience from my lens, the last 41 years of my life, except for in 2016 when Donald J. Trump came to office, all it means is you're a great liar and you're a great cheat. And we've all made mistakes. We've all made mistakes in business, done deals maybe we could have done differently, whatever. I'm not talking about that, but what I am talking about is those guys that consistently, they've made politics a career, and year after year, they've sold their soul and they've sold their country to the devil, and they've sold it to China. Yes. And to your point, the blue states are the worst. And that's what we got to start to correct. And I feel like there's this wave in this country, in these blue states, not only your neck of the woods, but mine, the back door to California, where mama bears are rising up and saying, read between the lines. We're not doing that anymore.
No. And then you got Jason, you know, our buddy Jason Landmire, right? You know,
yep.
I'm writing a book with his publisher, you know, which is awesome. You know, we were just talking in Tampa Bay. We were talking about maybe us doing events together and people like that. And here's what I'm going to tell you, Dr. Cordie. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to write a law. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to do a stimulus bill. Will you listen to the people? Will you be for the people? Yes or no? That's it.
And to your point, Jackson Lawmeyer from Oklahoma, right? He's running for Senate, and this guy, he doesn't have any political experience.
No.
He doesn't need it. He's had experience with Jesus, right? The guy's a pastor.
Yes.
He's a pastor. And he's saying, you know what? I'm going to level up and lean in for my country. And so, Chris, that's so awesome, man. Praise God.
And we need people to go, well, Chris, why aren't you running? I'm not running because it's not my time. Yeah. I would love to run. I would not be able. Could you imagine me in Congress with who's in Congress now? I would be walking up and down clotheslining people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not my calling. My calling right now is for the people and get in the streets and have the ministry and heal people. That's what I need to do. You know, but people like you, people like Jason, you know, there's other people that I can mention. Paul Romero from Portland, Oregon. You know, he said, go find some dirt on me. Go ahead, I dare you. The dude's an NSA guy. And he came on my show, Dr. Cordie, and this is what's going to happen to you. People that didn't know you, people didn't know you were running, or people that were on the fence about you, once they see this and they see who you are and know you came on my show, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I love this dude. I've got him, the #1 guy in Oregon now, where it was Dallas Hurd and this other person. Wow. Now he's meeting with the other people that were for the other one. And I'm like, look, just meet him. Just meet him. I'm endorsing him because he came on my show and I swung at him like a piñata. And the guy didn't bat an eye. And I warned him and he begged to be on my show. Wow. And so for people to be like that and like you to say, hey, look, I want to come on the show, ask me any question. Look, so your resume the last 6 to 8 months, so people know, you know, you've been there. You've already shown, you've shown up and you've showed out. It's one thing to run for politics and you're just there shaking hands, kissing babies and being on platforms because you need votes.
Well, I think one of the biggest leadership qualities that anybody needs to have when they do anything in life is the ability to recognize talent, the ability to recognize what they're not good at, and the ability to delegate to their weaknesses, serve their weaknesses, right? Like if you know that you're not a good speaker, then find somebody else that can be the voice for you. If you know that you're not good at, for example, social media or marketing, then find somebody that's an expert at that. And really, I think oftentimes what we don't see is running an organization or running a movement is really, really all about servicing where you're weak, servicing your weaknesses, and putting up bills for legislation to change a country from tyranny back to freedom is the same thing. Where are the weaknesses and where are the solutions? You know, the book, the 7 most highly effective people, it talks about whenever you bring a issue to somebody's attention or a problem, have a solution with that, right? And you know, that's what I would say is that's different about guys like Jackson in Oklahoma or myself is we want to be the change that we want to see, and we want to be the result we want to see, and we're doing it through actions. We're just not doing it through our rhetoric.
Yeah, and I love that. And you know, I always say in my speeches, people don't care what you know until they know you care. And you can genuinely see that you truly care, not only just about the country, but about the people. And it resonates when you're on stage. It resonates when you're off stage. I've seen so many people in my life, from going back to when I was a model, when I was 17. They were a persona when they were on stage in front of the camera, and they were a totally different person off stage. And you, my friend, Jason, and others, you're the same person you are on stage is that you're on off stage, you know, and that humility that you have, that humbleness, that love that you have, that genuineness, that realness. People want to be around that. You know, people just, they can't get enough because we've been around fake for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's even in, you know, like in our movement, and this is what you and I are trying to kind of get out of the movement, so to speak, but we're also trying to give our viewers and followers discernment. There's a lot of folks out there that are just trying to get clicks, right? And so they're sensationalizing scenarios, and I'm not going to say names because I'm not going to throw darts or stones, but you know, I really want your listeners just to start to use discernment, right? Start to use discernment and start to look for solutions and people that offer solutions and ways that you can get involved. Because we need everybody to look at their God-gifted talents and get involved right now in unity. We don't need these, I'm just going to say it, these podcasters that are creating these distractions that are dividing us. That's exactly what the left wants. So be the change you want to see by being the result that you want to see, by getting involved, to your point, Chris. And that's how we're going to change and shift this country. You know, there's so many influencers out there making 50, 100 grand for speaking engagements and, you know, selling books and all that. And I don't have a problem with people monetizing. Good for you if you can do it. But my question would be is, what have you ever given up for your country? It's like we give up something for Jesus. We tithe. We do things that are sometimes uncomfortable. We say things that are uncomfortable when the Holy Spirit comes over us. What are you going to do for your country that's along serving on that level, where you give something up to level up and create something bigger than yourself?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's beautiful. That is so adequate, like how you say that, because people look at us and go, well, look at you, you're traveling, you're going to listen, been on a tour bus for a month, you know, going to living in a hotel, living in suitcases. It's not glamorous. Okay. Like me getting change in, you know, in alleyways and stuff like it's not glamorous. But it needs to be done, right? It needs to be done. And that's our sacrifice. Unlike you, Dr. Cordie, I never had an opportunity to fight for my country. 3 years ago, when I got the call at 3:03 in the morning from the Lord, look up the Illuminati, that's when I started to fight for our country. And I became an anon. And then from that, I became a speaker, because I was never a speaker. People think, oh, you've been speaking. No. I really was never a speaker. God gave me a talent to be a dancer. And through my national, my multi-level marketing company, my 2 mentors honed me in speaking. And you know what they said to me? And it never resonated with me, Dr. Cordie, until a couple of months ago. It always used, now they're the number 1 guys in my company. They're the top 50 MLM in the whole world. Okay. And both brothers would say to me, you could be bigger than me and my brother put together. You could be bigger than me and my brother put together. And I took that, meaning in my multi-level marketing company, right? But here it was outside of that. But they believed in me when I didn't believe in me. And so sometimes we need somebody to just believe in us just a little bit more until we get the word of God, or until we just believe in ourselves, just like you did. And you went from being a doctor, a chiropractor, to just protesting, to doing a movement, to being a senator of California. That's right. I just said that. I didn't say I said, you're going to be the senator of California. I truly believe that, if the machines aren't rigged.
I'm glad you said that, Chris, because, it's, I think there's an opportunity in the space of, as Christians, operating in this demonic world that we live in. I believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I don't believe that we're human beings having a spiritual experience, right? We're spiritual beings first having this human experience that we know is temporary, but the world that we're living in is just this temporary vehicle or vessel, right? And if people can understand that, it really paints a picture for what's possible beyond what we can see and what we can fathom. And so there's so many things you've said in this time that we've been together that have really touched me, because I think that so many times we need to just say that loving word to someone, because you don't know when the support that you give them, right, is that one thing that maybe you talk to somebody and you just tell them you love them, or you give them a word of encouragement, you give them a hug. You don't know if they were 5 seconds away from going to kill themselves.
Oh,
right.
Right, man. You're right.
And
You're right.
it's like you do that for other people. And I think there's so many people out there that a voice like yours starts to turn on that switch of possibility for them, where they're just like, hey, I didn't even see that in myself, but Chris saw that. And if there's enough Chris's and enough Dr. Cordies and some of these influencers that start to create the line of possibility above what you think is possible, right? So really, like, you thought your best was 80%, and that worked. That was your 100% for a long time, even though to everybody else it's 80%. And now you see a vision that's 120%. And I just think that that's so much of what we can do right now with the depression and anxiety rates through the roof because of COVID. And we got kids killing themselves. There's a lady named 14-year-old Iris Allen, couldn't go back to school, wanted to, told her mom that, and mom clicks the garage door opener and her daughter's hanging from a noose. Yep. And those stories are all over the place.
Yeah. And, to what you said, we're all going to be dust to dust someday. And everybody looks on a tombstone, and the most important part of the tombstone isn't when you were born and isn't when you died. That little dash, that little line? Yeah, that little dash, that little line, it's the smallest thing on that stone, is the most prevalent and the most important. Because what that stands for is what you did while you were alive. So what you said, to go back and really bring this full circle, your legacy. You prayed for a legacy. And that, my friend, you have. You're the legacy of Dr. Cordie Williams. And that dash is what you are doing now. And it continues. And God keeps continue on anointing you and blessing you because he ordered your steps and you obeyed. And even as crazy as it was at some times, you still obeyed. See, I met a woman at a show, and we had a conversation. We talked, and we were talking about baby Trump, and we were talking about she actually did gematria, this is, you know, gematria.
No, I
So,
don't.
and
I don't even know what
yeah.
that is.
So gematria is basically how everything is code, okay? Hebrew and Jewish language and everything. And so she put my name in and it came out radiate love, prophecy, and God's blessings, right? Pretty crazy. So we were talking about that, and I told her, you know, my testimony, which I'll share on your show. And I talked about cuddling and I talked about the human heart. And she said, I haven't been cuddled in, you know, 2.5 years. And I'm like, what do you mean you haven't been cuddled in 2.5 years? I'm like, do you know the damage that does to the heart? More importantly, to the soul. And you know that what I can tell you is, you know, I talked and she got cuddled, and she said, man, she said it opened up her whole entire world.
Mm.
And let me tell you what it's done in less than a month, right? So this happens, she gets cuddled. She the next day, boom, she's opening up her whole entire world. She's telling her deep, dark secrets, all her skeletons in the closet, the whole nine, right? She then turns around, and by the way, they have what's called professional cuddlers. This is true. So you can actually go online, right? I was like, David Trump's gonna be a professional cuddler, right? I'll make millions, right? It'll pay for my ministry and your movement. But it's true. You could actually, there's a website, people look to be cuddled. I kid you not. And it's $125 an hour. They have to pay up front. And every additional hour is $100. You could do overnight cuddling. It's just cuddling. That's all it is. And you could do like car cuddling. You could do virtual cuddling. All it is people want you to hear them. That's all it is. It's human contact. It's human touch. But anyway, she was in a very bad situation that involved her son and involved her son's father being controlled and, you know, having a thumb down on her, you know, 3 years and so. And she ended up just buying her own brand new home, gonna get out of her situation. He's got freedom. Nobody's gonna control her. And this woman has completely done a 180.
Mm.
Completely
Man,
on just
love seeing that.
on the possibility, just on a conversation about being cuddled, about being held. And so my thing is when I hug people, is that's what I want them to feel. If that's my legacy. I want people to love one another like they've never loved before. I know that's a cliche. I know it's the oldest verse in the Bible, but here's the thing. Doesn't matter because we haven't owned up to it. And so I believe that God put that on my heart to do that. And I just wanted to tell you just that possibility of saying something to somebody because you never know, Dr. Cordie, what that person is going through. You don't know what kind of day they're having. And if you could light up their world for 30 seconds or a minute, when we speak to one another, this right here is either going to destroy somebody or raise them up. And every time you're on that mic, every time you're on that megaphone, every time I've watched you with a fan, every time I've watched you out in public, you use this to raise people up. You lift them up. You make them feel so important. And I think that matters more than anything that you've done. I just wanted to share that with you.
I'm honored, buddy.
Yeah. So what's your next chapter? Become senator. Then what? What are we going to do
Well, you know, after senator, I don't know. I'm going to let God tell me.
next? Okay.
Yeah, I really don't know. I think books
Yeah.
are definitely in the works. Just about, I feel like there's a story to tell about the way God's hand has been on everything that's happened. And what I want to do that a lot of people don't do, in my opinion, is they share the high points of a story, but they don't share the adversity and the lessons that were taught in the failures. And I think people need to be encouraged more about their failures, because their
I agree.
failures are learning experiences to transform them and lead them. And in those times where people want to give up, it's like, I love the quote that George S. Patton said, 30 more seconds of fear on the other side of that is courage.
Mm.
And I feel like if we can level up to tell our stories, Chris, about the adversity that we faced the last 15 months and really our testimony over our lives, that somebody can in some way be inspired to use that as a roadmap to say, you know what, I've got it bad, but I don't have it that bad. Or it's not that bad, or it is that bad, but look what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And that turns on that heartstring. I love what you said about connecting and personal touch, because I do think, the research talks very clearly about dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. And when a baby is born, the distance between the crick of the elbow and mama holding that baby, the baby can only see to mama's eyes. And that was a perfectly designed system. And our love system is the same way. Like we all have to have those hugs, and we have to know that we're loved and appreciated. And so what I would say to your viewers out there is, go and tell somebody you love them today. Go in and hug somebody and give them an edifying word. And when you serve on that level, if you're caught up into, demons or you're being attacked, when you go out into service because you hear that sweet, soft whisper, the Holy Spirit talking to you, and you comply, it's amazing how much you find your why, and whatever bad day you're having shifts into a good day.
Oh man, that's powerful. You preach, brother. Preach.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Preach. I love it. But before I go, I just want to say is, the bigger the breakdown, the bigger the breakthrough.
I love that.
Most people can't get to the breakthrough because the breakdown is so tumultuous. It's so bad. It takes everything in them, and they're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. But you don't know what's on the other side.
Yeah.
And you're never going to know, because all that breakdown is God saying, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? And if you get through this, on the other side are unicorns, rainbows, and, fluffy things. I always say, like, oh, my little fluffy, right? Like those, but that breakdown, you got to have it. What do they do in the Marines? They break you down and build.
Yeah, that's what Paris Island's all about. Breakdown.
Back up, right?
Sure. What's that?
They break you down to build you back up.
Yep.
And how many people have you seen couldn't go through that breakthrough?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
why Marines are raised up.
Well, and that's why, say, just in kind of closing or in finishing up, it's like, what's your best? And right now, I think that never quit attitude is so pivotal and important, because so many people are getting complacent right now. You're seeing kind of the post era, the post rallies and stuff like that. And folks are like, well, why are you continuing? Why are you doing this? Well, Chris, you and I know there is no new normal. Okay. Well, I'm not going to accept that. And people can't either. Like, King George just gave you your rights back in most states not to wear a facial condom. But because Sleepy Joe said to wear a facial condom, now the medical experts, also known as flight attendants, are now saying that you still have to wear a facial condom on a plane because it's a federal law. And I always say under my breath, no, that's a mandate. It's not a federal law. The legislature didn't pass it. The House and the Senate didn't pass it. And so, I just think that the biggest thing that you and I can do for your viewers, and what I hope they learn from our conversation today, is just, you got to find your God-gifted talent. You got to lean in. And this is about our kids. And if we don't continue to teach principles like what Chris is teaching on this show and get it out to more people and educate our kids, like, we're not going to have a country left. And so I just want to commend you, brother, for everything you've sacrificed for this country, because people thank me for my service all the time. I want to thank you for your service, because there's a lot of people sitting on their tail right now, watching it go by, acting like their life is normal. And most of them have way more money than you and I do. and they're not using it to leverage possibility of change. There's influencers that are on Fox every single day, getting paid exorbitant amounts of money. And they talk about change. They talk about the problems, but they don't talk about solutions, and they don't back it up with action. And that's what you're doing.
Thank you. I love that. And I'm gonna say something before I give it back, and you can tell everybody, how to help you, where they can find you. But I'm gonna say something right now. And it's gonna offend some people, but I don't care, because I'll always offend you and I'll never offend God. So, you millionaires out there, you billionaires out there, and I know there's a lot of them that are on my podcast. I know there's a lot on Cordie that'll see this. You have a lot of money. First of all, it's not your money, it's God's money. Number two, your money is going to be worth nothing. It's going to be worth nothing. See, when we are sitting in a FEMA camp next to one another, me, you, and Cordie, your money means zilch. So why don't you take that money and use it on people like Dr. Cordie Williams, that is fighting for our country, that is fighting for our faith, that is fighting for family, that is sitting here making a stand for your family, while you sit in front of the boob tube, while you sit there and you might go to a rally and you might be a cheerleader, while he's sacrificing his family, while he's sacrificing his career. Why don't you take a check out, and whatever you feel in your heart, and write that check out to Dr. Cordie Williams for his movement. He's not going to be getting on a Learjet. He's not going to be sitting there flying first class. He's not going to, half the time he's driving most of the time that I'm talking to him. But what it's going to do, it's going to support him. It's going to support his movement. He's going to be able to do things that he wouldn't be able to do. And that could be your little part in getting this country back, in getting our freedom back, is helping him out, is writing a check. And people like him. There's other people. There's Ann Vandersteel and Resistance Chicks and yeah. Mike Adams, and I could go on and on and on and on. And don't worry about me. God's got me. I'm not talking about me. I know I should, but I'm about everybody else first and foremost. I'll get my blessings. But write out a check. Call him up. Ask him, what can I do for you? As you were speaking, Cordie, two people came to mind that I'm going to talk to that I think are going to be very powerful to help you in your senator election. One, I'm driving down to DC on Thursday. This guy is going to be my merchandise guy with me. And he's the biggest lobbyist in DC.
Wow. So
I'm going to talk to him about you. He's going to see this podcast and we'll go from there. The other thing is, do you know the guy Jason that was the Twitter wizard for Trump that got him elected? Do you know about him?
I think I met him.
MAGA TV. He's got MAGA TV.
Yeah, I met him through somebody. I'm trying to remember where. I might have met him through one of my PR people. I think I met him in Florida through possibly Kristen Davis or Matt Couch. I met him through somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's a phenomenal guy. I'm going to have him on my show probably this week. I'll talk to him about you as well. One, get you on MAGA TV.
I'd be honored, bro.
And then two, just to give you
I don't know if you're trying to make me cry, but you're going to in a second.
Oh man. So what he could do for you is he knows everything. He knows what everybody's social media is. He knows who's against you, who's for you.
Which I'm being like censored, man. Some people say I should have like 800,000 followers, and then we just get slammed, bro.
He knows everything, and he knows who's your haters. He knows everything.
Well, I just hope I can afford him, to be honest.
Listen, dude, this guy is
I still
unbelievable.
want to talk to him though.
Yeah, and we'll make
I'm
it
honored, dude.
happen, whatever it takes.
Thanks, buddy.
But I want to, if I could at least get that relationship together, that would be awesome.
Well, Chris, I'm honored, man, and I'm so honored. And I want to talk to you offline too. Later, we definitely have to talk and merge schedules, and we need to do a lot more together. I want to tell you about some things that I think you would just be perfect for in collaboration, because I want to do more with you. And thank you for that shout out, Chris, because yeah, we're nonprofit. We're a 501c3. I drive a Tundra. I lost about 150 grand last year due to COVID, and that's not a money grab. I'm just being candid with you guys. And we are not a turning point. We want to be a turning point of policy, but we don't have $100 million budget. We deal off of small donors right now. And we've had people donate everything from Southwest flights. We have a bunch of Southwest pilots that have donated tons of flights that want to remain anonymous. And it's stuff like that we're able to stand up for this and the souls that are 6 feet under. So if you want to get involved, certainly continue to support Chris. Go to 1776foreverfree.com. We're going to be launching chapters all over the country where you can get a house. If you've got a big house or a friend that does, or a big church, charge $10 at the door, and we zoom in our weekly constitutional classes so you can start to build a constituency and lead a chapter in your area. And those are chapters that we use, like when Chris comes to town, to mobilize that chapter to go out and support Chris. But let's say Chris and I want to do a masking rally or an anti-bill rally where they want passports for people to get the jab or whatever, right? We're doing certain things that we can have a crew of people that are like-minded, patriotic. We don't care what gender, what color they are. We don't care. Anybody that wants to operate in love and inclusivity, for anybody that wants to be able to have choice in their family, that's who we stand with. Well, Chris, I've gotten the pull from Dr. Tanya a couple of times, but man, I'm so honored that you had me on the show today. And buddy, I know we're going to be friends for a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to leave them? How to get you, where they could find you?
You can go to drcordie Williams.com. And then you'll be able to hit my Instagram up, all that stuff, or it's drcordie Williams on Instagram. There's a link tree that'll take you everywhere as well. And then 1776foreverfree.com. There's the opportunity to donate monthly, one time, however you want to do it. I always tell folks, if you did $5 and we had 10,000 people do $5 for 12 months, that's $60 out of your pocket. That's one less Starbucks per month. And even a small donation like that is not a small donation to us. And if that's your 80% or your 120%, hey, we'll take your best and we appreciate it.
Love it, man. I love everything that you're about. I just want to say a quick prayer real quick. And I just want to do a blessing over you, Dr. Cordie.
Thanks,
Lord,
buddy.
I ask that, that number one, that you put a hedge of protection around Dr. Cordie Williams, and not just Dr. Cordie Williams, but his family, his friends, his constituents, his coworkers, his volunteers, everybody that he's around, Lord, because he is fighting evil. He's fighting the dark powers of principality. He's fighting the demons, right? Lord, I ask that you let this man's cup run over. If I ask that you let this man have an abundance, not only abundance of finances, but a abundance of wealth, but also abundance of time, Lord. Abundance, not only that, but an abundance of family. Let him have time with his family as well. Lord, I ask that everything that comes out of Dr. Cordie's mouth just be the most unbelievable truth coming from the Holy Spirit, and anything that he's saying that is deceitful or that is not the truth, Lord, that I ask that you don't even let him speak that, Lord. Lord, I ask that everything that he does is blessed and anointed, that every time that he speaks of the Holy Spirit, he gives glory and praise to you, Lord, and that he sits there and resonates with everybody, Lord, and that he brings listeners and viewers to you, Lord. Let him be a conduit. Let him be a vessel of you. He says, be the image of you, Lord. He's definitely the image of you, Lord. Give him the courage. Give him the wisdom. Let him know, Lord. Touch him. Let him know that he is so worthy of your love. Let him feel the love that I felt a year ago. Let him know that when everybody was running from the burning buildings, you were the only one that stood there. That while I was being abused and bullied, that you were the one standing there, Lord. Let him feel that. Let him know. Let him feel that love. And this we ask, Christ, amen. Love you, brother.
Love you too,
I will
man.
talk to you later.
Love
God
you,
bless
Chris.
you.
God bless you. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.